Oh my God. I think that's where so many people, it's so interesting because I think it's twofold is like you can either get stuck in content creation on the front end where like on Instagram or on your social media or email, or you can get stuck in content creation on the back end for serving. And I see this all the time where you're just like continually creating something new for your clients all the time. I just was having a...
How many times have we shared the after picture without sharing how long the journey was? This is something that if you are willing to fall on your face, you can do it. The question is, are you willing to get back up? My name is Josh, and I'm your push coach. I'm the #1 best-selling author of F Leadership, and for the last 6 years, I've helped over 40,000 entrepreneurs to take ownership of their businesses and create tangible results that have changed their businesses and lives forever. Let's dive in. My friends. Welcome back to Your Push Coach. My name is Josh. I'm your push coach, and I've got a super exciting guest today. I'm so freaking excited about this episode. Many of you have heard me talk about a mastermind that I actually participate in. We go to Arizona several times a year to hang out in person, to mastermind together. This is one of my friends. Her and her husband have become friends of mine. I love them so much. They're so incredible. And Nicole Culver is, guys, she's a 7-figure business coach who helps people make weekly sales online while still having a life. So if you're listening to this, and you're like, you know what? I'm always in the hustle. I'm always in the grind. And I feel like there's 2 people listening right now. I'm always in the hustle. I'm always in the grind, but I'm not even making weekly sales. Okay, well, let's fix that. Or I'm making weekly sales, but I'm literally always in the hustle and the grind. So today we're going to talk about how to make weekly sales while still having a life. She has kids. I know she's really active with them. She's an amazing human. She's such a sweetheart, and you're going to love her. I'm so excited to have my friend, Nicole Culver. Hi, friend.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm so excited. You know what? If anyone's watching the YouTube version, you super overdressed me today. I'm like home from the gym, and you're like all looking nice and everything with your super cute office in the background. But that's okay, because if they're listening, no one even knows.
No, and no one cares. I could have showed up in sweatpants too. It would have been great.
No, it's all good. I don't get dressed until like after lunch. That's kind of my jam.
Oh, okay. Well, mine is like, I have to be dressed by the time I take my 2 to elementary. We have 2 in elementary school, 1 in preschool. Yeah. 8:45. Like that's my time. I need to be dressed by then.
I love it. I mean, everyone's got a different vibe, right? Like yeah. I go to I get the kids ready for school, get them out the door, then go to the gym. And then I usually have a call waiting for me when I get home from the gym. And then it's like my lunch break that I like eat, take a shower, get all dressed, and then go hang out at the coffee shop.
I love it. I love hearing the way people flow different. 8:45 just works for me, because then I'm like, hurry up to get ready. I get the kids to school, clean up the kitchen. And then I like sit for 30 minutes and I'm just like, that's my time to like scroll Instagram and like procrastinate, but I like build it in, you know?
Right. No, I love that. Planned procrastination is very important, right? Because like we don't have to be productive every second of the day, regardless of what books have said. It's totally okay to just be intentional about the fact that you're a human. Just be smart enough to plan it.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's dig in. I want to hear kind of a little bit of like what got you started. Before we jump into how to make weekly sales online, we're going to get to that, I promise everyone. But I want to hear kind of like, you know, take me back to the moment that you like got into business and what inspired you to do so.
Oh, okay. You want to go back?
Yeah,
like
I want to go back
far back. Okay. Well, okay. If we go back, I quit my teaching job 2011. So I've been doing this like a long time, a lot of ebbs and flows and twists and turns. But I started with actually a blog online where I was blogging, embarrassingly, but not, because it's part of my story. I was blogging recipes and like healthy eating tips. And I went back to school after I was teaching at Integrative Nutrition. So I started with a blog and being a health coach around 2009, 2010. So if we're talking like back, that's really when I started making money online. I mean, it was pennies at that point because it was a blog. And then I made some money doing one-on-one health coaching services. But that really was the thing that allowed me to be like, okay, I can leave my teaching job that was $55,000 a year and took a leap. And I went into health coaching and then started a food business. So those were the first two things or first three things, if we're counting the blog, that I jumped in. And that just gave me the kind of like the permission to go, because I felt like I could take a leap into something.
Right. I love that. A food company. Tell me more about that. I want to hear about that.
Yes. It's actually funny because one of our team members is working on SEO for us, and she just messaged me right before this. And she's like, "You're still ranking for granola. Like, we have to fix this. Why are you still coming up for granola?" But that was our first, that was our first company. We had a food business and we sold locally and we sold online. We were in stores like Home Goods, Whole Foods. We were on Amazon, Thrive Market. So that's how we really learned online sales, because we started local. We were doing food, what are they called? Oh my gosh, farmers markets.
Okay.
Thank you. Farmers markets. We were doing samplings in stores. I was going to like yoga studios to do samplings. Wow. I was doing it in gyms. And then we built our own, I didn't build it, but we hired someone to build our own website, and we're selling online. And that's actually how we got started with Facebook ads too, with our food company.
Very cool. That's a hustle.
It was a hustle, man. Yes.
Yeah. I have a couple friends who started a local coffee shop, and they kind of started the same way with going to all the farmers markets, any and every like local event that existed. They had a booth, that is a grind unlike any like we get sometimes like online business is like so hard. It's like, we can sit at home in our pajamas if we really want to. You don't have to wake up early to be like, you can literally make your own schedule.
Yeah. And that is actually what taught me about selling, because one, I had no idea. And I was scared out of my mind going into local stores being like, "Hi, will you buy my granola?" And it's so funny because even then, right? Like it was a physical product I could hold in my hands, yet it was so about me, which it had nothing to do with me, but I made it about me. But that's literally what taught me how to sell and gave me confidence. And I think that's one of the things. It's kind of like you think, oh, let me have the confidence first. No, I was scared out of my mind every time. It never got easier for me in the food business. I hated it so much. And the other thing, when you have a food business, the profit is like, you look at what we sell now, our profit margins, and the profit margins in food is like so teeny.
Yeah. So when did you transition from doing all of this stuff to being an online business coach?
Yeah. We started in 2015-ish. We started taking on clients because we needed to raise money for our food company and we needed to actually make money, because there's just so many costs that go into having a food product and so many things. Like you actually have to worry about like being safe and not like harming someone when you have food. So it's a lot more, there's a lot more at stake with that. So we started consulting because we were selling online and we were running ads, and people started asking us like, "How are you doing this? How did you learn how to do this?" So we started consulting. And then in 2016, I actually launched my podcast in I believe it was 2016. And I also launched a summit in 2016. And that was how to help other food entrepreneurs make money online. And I invited like everyone I knew to speak at it. So 2016 was transition. 2018, we shut down the food business and went all in.
I love that. That's awesome. And so now so 2016, is that what you said you had your first summit?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And then 2018? You went
Yep.
all in. So it took a couple of years to kind of make that transition.
Yeah, it was because I should have made it sooner, just numbers wise, but it was my baby.
Yeah.
I was really holding on to it. And then it came choosing my actual third child, where it was like, dude, you can keep packing boxes and shipping out granola, or like you have something that is actually making money and making profit. So I had to decide. And in 2016, with our first summit, we made $11,000, and $8,000 of it was profit. A little over $8,000 was profit. And when we did that and we made $8,000 in profit
right.
one time, we were like, oh man, $8,000, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So now let's fast forward. Now you're helping online businesses, mostly entrepreneurs, I'm assuming, right? From the conversations we've had, you're helping them to make weekly sales. Let's dive into the weekly sales aspect. Okay. What are the things that most people are doing that are either keeping them from making weekly sales or just have them going off in the wrong direction altogether?
They're doing a whole lot of things that are keeping them. But I think the first thing that is the most important is being willing to sell something to someone. And that is like, that's the core. Like, honestly, that is the core of everything we do. That's literally, and we have a team at this point, but we didn't, if we go, back and back, but that's the first thing we do every day is like, okay, how are we, and we have a system now for this, but if you don't, that's okay. It's like, how am I making an offer to someone today? And I think with online, sometimes we think it needs to be so much more complicated than it is. But if you want to go really granular, it's like, okay, well, who do you know today that needs your help?
Yeah. I love that. So starts off that way, but then it does hopefully build into some systems. I mean, let's talk about some of those. Let's dive into some of the systems that you guys are teaching your clients and what you're actually using on like a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis.
Yeah. Okay. So how granular do you want to go? I think the most important thing is figure out, no one wants to talk about this, but your offer has to be something you can sell all the time, because this is where a lot of people come in to us and they have programs that are not set up to run all the time, which is totally fine because we can work with anyone to modify them. But one, you have to be able to run it all the time and then know that your clients are going to actually have a result with it. Because if your program is set up like, I don't know, to do cohorts or something, then you're going to be limited by that.
Yeah. And this is a really, really good topic to bring up. And I'm glad you're bringing this up because, obviously I work with people in different industries, but the life coaches and course creators that follow me, or even people, let's say in network marketing that decide to launch a course. One of the first things people always come to me and say is, I think I'm going to create like a 30-day program or a 2-month program or a 3-month program. And I always advise people to instead start more of like an ongoing mastermind, because you can just literally sell it anytime you want. And you take the program and you churn it into this thing that has demand. And one of the things that I did when I first started was, I created a program for 30 days. People did it. And I was like, okay, but now I need to sell them something else. I have to create another program and then create. And it was this constant creation mode, which is exhausting. Do you think that sometimes, and we're going back to the conversation we had off air, do you think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're a little bit addicted to just like wanting that adrenaline rush of creating something new?
Oh my God. I think that's where so many people, it's so interesting because I think it's twofold, is like you can either get stuck in content creation on the front end where like on Instagram or on your social media or email, or you can get stuck in content creation on the back end for serving. And I see this all the time where you're just like continually creating something new for your clients all the time. I just was having a conversation with someone about this last week, and I was like, well, aren't you just overwhelming? If you're always creating something new, like, and there's always something for your people to go through, aren't you just overwhelming them? Like, you're overwhelmed by creating this. So aren't your people going to be overwhelmed by watching this?
Right. Right. It's such a good point. It's such a good point. And like, let's just take a second to just like soak that in. If I'm overwhelmed, my clients are overwhelmed. So how can I simplify everything? And I think that comes back to this limiting belief we all have, Nicole, as leaders, is I'm not enough. I'm not giving enough. I'm not serving enough. I'm not helping enough. So I have to create more, right? But it's like, if we could like get rid of that insecurity of you not being good enough and instead look at it as, if you're overwhelmed, they're overwhelmed. So how do we make this simple? How do we make it easy? So maybe you could just give us a rundown of how you keep your groups simple and easy so that you can keep them ongoing.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is like figuring out what actually matters for your clients. And the reason why I say that is because for our clients, sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable because the thing that matters to our clients is that they're making more money. And the number one way that you are able to make more money is to get good at selling. And that can be really uncomfortable for people. And I have to be okay that they're uncomfortable. And I have to be okay sitting in the idea that they might be uncomfortable, but I know this is actually the work that they have to do. And you can't hide from that work. So I have to like sometimes let my clients sit in the fact that they're not that good at selling and they need to get better at selling. And that might take some of our clients come in and it clicks. Like we had one client who she got 2 sales one week and she was a little stressed out. And she was like, I don't know. And I don't know. And I just said to her, listen, take a deep breath, trust the process, go through the process again. The next week, I think she had 10 sales. Last week, she had 20 sales. Wow. But I didn't sit there and say, here's all these new things you should try. Here's what you got to do. I was like, go back. Let's look at this. It's uncomfortable. It's okay. Yeah. But this is what it's going to take. And I think sometimes we want to like just make people comfortable and be like, okay, try these 10, try everything. But it's like, the bottom line is I know my system works. I'm not going to throw new things at you until you're ready for them. And if you can't master selling, we gotta stick here. We gotta stay here.
I love that. That's so good because I mean, I have everyone listening in some way works with clients and or a team. And when I find people that are trying to say like mentor other people, of whether it's some version of a business mentor, or honestly health and fitness coaching is also a different version of mentoring, right? Yeah. I think there's this constant temptation, like if that's not working, let's give you more. Versus I'm soaking in what you just said, which is just because I feel the same way about my sales psychology that I teach. There's 3 or 4 things that I know if you get really good at these things, you will just crush it. Yeah. But when people aren't crushing it, you're like, well, maybe there's some, and I love what you said. Just no, let's just stay here. Let's just hang out here.
It's so uncomfortable. And you have to, as like the leader and the CEO, you have to build. And I've been doing this 11 and a half years at this point. I have been in the place where I'm like, I get an email, or our client success person, Jess, she gets an email and she sends it to me. And now I know, no, it's, this works. But years ago, I would have, maybe even a year ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, and freak out. So you can't, if you know what you do works.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I think like for us, and I know for you too, like we would never go to our mentor and be like, this is your fault. You stink. No, we put it on ourselves, right? We're just like, I have to figure this out. I have to figure it out. But sometimes with our clients, we want to you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, I have to figure everything out for me and them. Doesn't work.
But I do think that we sometimes tend to find that one person that does blame it on us.
Mm.
And then we take that on for everyone else. Like we think if one person blamed it on us, that everyone else who isn't getting results feels the same way that person feels. How do you navigate the unhappy client? Like, that's a little bit more of an internal battle, but how do you wrestle with that?
I think I actually have a different answer than you might expect, but I actually now, and I'm not perfect at this, so I don't mean to come off like I am, but how my perspective that I try to put on is like, okay, can I remove the emotion from this and just try on that they're right for a second and see if there's a way that I can make this better for them? And I'll give you a really specific example, not with someone who told me I was wrong. We do a weekly data tracker, and this is actually something you shared with us that I think you do a daily data tracker with your clients. So we made a weekly data tracker, and that, one of the pros of being in a mastermind, you shared that. And I was like, oh, it's so good. We're going to modify that and we're going to do weekly. So we had a new client come in, and now we've been doing this data tracker. You told us about this at the beginning of the year, like And so we've been doing it. Literally, we came home from a mastermind, put it in. No one has ever said anything about it. And we had a new client who came in the past month, and she was like, I don't get this. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Can you do a video explaining this? And now she wasn't like, she was just very to the point about it. So I was like, you know what? You're right. I have never explained this. I have never made a video. I'm going to do that. So I know it's a little different, but if you can say, okay, does this have any truth to it? Can I, instead of taking it personally, can you look at it objectively and say, okay, well, if I can make this experience better for this one type of person, because if I have one, even if my 52 other clients have never said anything about the data tracker, I bet you a few other people are thinking it. So now I'm going to do this one thing in my control to make it better. So, but it comes down to the fact of I didn't emotionally get entangled in it. And I think that's the key piece is like, can you look at this objectively, even if you need to take 24 hours? And then can you say, okay, is there any fact in this? Is there any truth in it? And how can I make my program better?
Yeah, I like that. And yes, that's a great question. Like, can I contribute to fixing this? And sometimes you can't, sometimes the reality is the thing that they're upset about. And if they're complaining about has literally nothing to do with you or the program. There's literally nothing you can do. And those are the tough ones where you just got to like put on your big boy, big girl pants and just say, I'm just going to have a tough conversation with this person and tell them that I don't agree. And like, that's just what it is. And that sucks. But I love the idea of at least just asking, is there a way I can fix this? Okay. I still want to get down to a nitty gritty. Can you teach us
in 2 minutes
one singular thing as far as like a system goes? Like if someone said, okay, hey, I'm posting on social media every single day, I'm doing stories, like what could I implement in the next, I don't want to make it sound like by the end of the day, because if it's a system, they're going to have to do some work, right? But what could I implement in the next 30 days that would help me? Like, what's the number one way you guys get someone from never heard of you or maybe just follows on social media to becoming an actual client?
Yeah. Okay. This isn't it can be a system, but it's not a system, but this is the thing. I think I'll backtrack.
Okay.
Directness is going to be your number one friend in the age that we are in right now. If there is any question to what you do and how you help people, you will be completely missed. So one of the things, the first thing we do with our clients, we call them cash conversations, is literally have people 1 to 3 times. It doesn't have to be on each platform, but 1 to 3 times a week, literally say like, I'm looking for this type of person who wants this type of help. If that's you, send me a message or reply to this email. And it makes people so freaking uncomfortable to do this, to start out. Like I'm looking for, I'm looking for 2 experts who want to evergreen their program in the next 4 weeks. If that's you, send me a DM with the word evergreen. It makes people so uncomfortable, but that's literally like, it's direct marketing. So ask people, tell people how you help them and how you can literally help them solve their problem. And doing that one thing, like making a direct ask once a week, even if you only do it once a week, that's going to be the thing that you're going to start to hear. Like, I didn't know you do that. And you're going to sit there and be like, I thought I talk about this all the time. Yeah. But you don't talk about it enough when like 1% of your Instagram audience sees your stuff.
And that's the thing we constantly forget, right? We constantly think that everybody knows everything that we've ever posted. I try really hard to never assume that when I'm talking to people. I'm like, I don't know if you saw this or not, but like I launched a life coach certification like a year ago. And sometimes people are like, oh yeah, you talk about that all the time. And then some people are like, oh, I had literally had no idea. And I'm like, you watch my stories like every day. How did you have? I'm just like, we just have to assume that nobody knows anything about us. Because they're not sitting and spending 20 hours a day thinking about it like we are, even if we randomly mentioned it in a post. So I love that. Can we talk for a second about, because I know that like we both kind of like do this, and that's constantly like having, like you said earlier, the offer that you can always sell, and constantly driving people to some type of an application or a sales call or something. And I do think that some people see their social media, and sometimes I do this with social media because I'm way more email heavy. Like, honestly, if you want to know how Josh messages, go read my emails. I put such little energy into social media versus email, but I'm looking at your social media, and you handle your social media a lot more like I do my email. And I think that some people they like to lean into lifestyle over like what they're actually an expert. And so you said, you got to be direct. And I think that that's important, because if we're not direct, people think that we're literally a lifestyle page. And the only thing they really expect from that is a little entertainment and maybe a coupon code. They don't really see you as like the expert. So can you talk a little bit more as like positioning yourself as like the expert that people want to learn from and buy from, versus the person they just want to like follow along and like hang out with?
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends what you want to do, obviously. But if you want to make money and you want to help people who are on your Instagram, then you really have to think about how often are you sharing what you do. And I think I post lifestyle stuff also, but I'm conscious of, okay, am I at least mentioning a live training, a freebie, something that I do? I try to do it once a day. And people get really funny. I think people get really funny about it, but I try to have the perspective that like people aren't super sensitive. Like if I say something on social media that someone doesn't like, or if I'm like selling on social media, they have free will to like exit the page. So it's totally up to you. But if you're doing something or not doing something because you're afraid of bothering someone, then I would really like just question that and say like, if you're trying not to bother someone, like, are you really making if you're trying not to bother someone, are you really making the impact that you want? And if you post one more time and one more person can be helped by you, what matters more, the one person that you're helping or the 10 people that might be or might not be annoyed by you?
I love that. Are you really making the impact you want? And I think too many times, Nicole, we get in our own head about who's watching, who's not watching, what they're thinking, what they're saying, and we forget like the only reason we signed up to do this was make an impact.
Yeah. And
that was it.
I mean, I have been there so many times where I'm like, why do all of these people, even like, I don't know if you get like this, but occasionally I'll get in my head that like my kids' friends' parents follow me. And I'm like, why do you follow me? You know,
Right,
like
right.
why? I don't understand. Why do
Right,
you follow me? And then they'll say something randomly like, oh, I saw you went for a walk this morning, so I did too. And it's just like
Yeah.
we're in our heads like,
I
oh my
know.
gosh, that person from college, that person
Yep.
from high school,
Yep.
why do they follow me? But then like the one thing you post that is so random will make a difference for them. And yet we're so worried about holding ourselves back because of other people.
Oh, I totally agree. I recently had my 20-year reunion for high school.
Same.
And it was like super cool. Oh, are we the same age? It was super cool to reconnect with all these people, but it also triggered some of my like insecurities from growing up. I was like, oh no, because of our reunion and our Facebook group that we had, now all of these people are like seeing all, and I kind of got in my head about it, but it was like really cool because at the reunion, someone who was like one of my best friends, we don't chat much, but of the people, he's someone I've at least texted a few times or whatever. And he's like an eye doctor. So he's like a pretty successful person. And to me, I'm like, I just talk on Zoom at home. This guy's an eye doctor, right? Like he's legit, right? And we see each other at the reunion, give each other hugs. He's like, hey man, I read your stuff on Facebook like every day. You're doing some really cool stuff, man. That's so awesome. And I remember being like, wait, I'm doing cool stuff? Like you're an eye doctor. I'm like over here like sharing, like to me, I'm like, I have got to be the ass of every joke within my high school because I'm like the online influencer, which is like the least legit thing in the world's eyes. Like it's something, if you're in our industry, it's cool. But in my head, I'm always like, outside of our industry, everyone probably laughs at us because we're like, oh, look at me, I'm on stories. And then to hear an eye doctor be like, oh, I watch you like every day and I love your stuff. And I was just like, oh, so maybe I'm not the laughing stock. Maybe that's just something I made up in my own head.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think people think about our industry.
I'll just say one more thing and then I don't know where you want to go, but I think when people probably see you, like people listening here, they probably think it's so easy for Josh to get on stories. Yeah. And people say, again, one of my daughter's friend's mom said to me, I said something like, oh yeah, I can be really shy. Yeah. And she was like, you're like, you walk around, like you're on Instagram, you're on stories, you're like taking pictures of your clothes. Like, how are you shy? And I was like, that's not my normal state. Like that is not comfortable for me. I do that because I signed up for this. I do that because I know I can make a difference in someone's life, but like, that is not, I make an effort. Like I show up, that is not comfortable. That's not necessarily, I think people think, oh, this is part of who you are. Josh loves to go on stories. Nicole loves that. Like, no, I actually don't. I would actually much prefer to not, but I know I committed to this mission and the impact I want to make. So I do it anyway.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love email, honestly. To me, it feels a little bit more like a blog post that nobody's watching. And I don't have to put my face out there. But yeah, social media to this day scares the shit out of me. To this day, I'm like every time I make a post, I feel like I'm walking out in the middle of the street naked. I'm just like, here I am. And I know I'm awkward and weird and probably saying something stupid, but like, I'm going to try it anyways. Like it still feels like that 8 years later. And I think you're right. People assume that they're like, oh, this just comes naturally for them. And social media has never been a natural thing for me. Like if you go back 8 years ago, I was posting pictures of basketballs with a quote on top of it. Like, because like, I didn't know what I was doing, right? Just like, I don't know. I think I'm supposed to throw up something motivational or whatever. Nicole, thank you so much for your time. This has been so amazing. I think there's been so much taken away from this. Could you give us one last tip before we close it out on sales? Whatever you think is like when clients come to you and they're like, hey, I'm struggling. Like maybe you could address, I know all of us kind of have our like one singular thing that it's like, everyone always struggles with this. And this is the quickest thing that I fix for people. what would that one thing be for you?
I'm going to kind of loop in what we just talked about, but I think the most important thing that I want to highlight from what we shared about social media or selling is the most important thing you can do is commitment to your word. And if you are feeling uncomfortable, if you're feeling nervous, if you are know that you're like meant for more and to make a bigger impact, all you have to do is make that commitment and then turn that commitment into a habit. And what I mean by that is if you want to sell every day, if you want to get to a certain revenue number, if you want to get to a certain amount of followers on the internet, like your commitment is to that, but you have to turn it into a daily habit. So if you want to sell every day, then you need to figure out, how does this become a habit? So how we turned it into a habit is my habit every day. First thing I do, because we make sales through emails and social media, is write one social post, one email. That's literally my habit for the day. And that is because I have a commitment to make an impact. So if you can figure out what your daily habit is that's going to get you to that goal or commitment, do that first thing in your day, whether for Josh, it's at maybe after he showers, after lunch. For me, it's about 9:45. Turn your commitment into a habit. And that's when you start to see momentum.
I love that. I love that. And I would just, if you're listening, I would just ask myself, what is the thing that when I do it consistently generates me the most regular sales? It's one of the reasons I'm an email guy. Like, I've never been the best in the world at turning a social media post into people wanting information or whatever. Not to say that I couldn't. It's not to say that, I mean, anybody can do anything, but for me, emails really are my sweet spot. I feel like I don't have to like wrap this up in 3 paragraphs. I can go for 9 paragraphs if I want. And I feel like there's just so much freedom. So that might be different for you, though. If you're listening to this, ask yourself, what is my sweet spot where I feel like if I gave this consistent action day in and day out, this would generate sales for me? And that's what you need to like really hone into. Everything else probably still needs to get done, but doesn't have to be done in your sweet spot. And that's why for me, after lunch, take a shower, get dressed, because right around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon is where I feel my zone of genius. So the same way you do in the morning, that's how I feel in the afternoon. Whatever your zone of genius is, make sure and put in the activity that you know is the thing that drives your income.
And the last thing, I know we're wrapping up, but I just want to add is like, be willing to do that for like 100 times, because if you do it 5 times and you don't see, oh my gosh, the windfall that I think I'm going to get, like if you knew it would take 100 times, would you show up differently? Would you keep going? A lot of people want to quit at 10 or 15 or 20. And realistically, it's going to take more effort than that. So like 100 times, if you knew if I did 100 posts or 100 emails for 100 days in a row, excluding the weekends, because why don't you take the weekends off? Would you do it? Like that might take you 4 months, but in 4 months from now, like how much better off are you going to be?
Yes. That last part is so important. That's such a good word right there, Nicole. I always tell people that I don't even mess with something unless I'm willing to give it 6 months. And if I envision myself doing it for 6 months and I feel like throwing up, I'm like, nope, that's not me. So like there's an element of trust to this where you have to, and this is why you can't just copy what someone else said to do. You do have to ask yourself, what is the thing I feel in my heart would drive revenue if I did it regularly? And then if that's what you believe in your heart, you have to trust that heart for 6 months. Even if tomorrow the person you respect more than anything in the world says you have to have a funnel, or you have to have more stories, or you have to have, like, fuck what everybody else says. Okay. I know that's like a really bold statement to say, but trust your heart over any other voice in the world. Nicole,
let's end it there.
Such
That's
a
so
good
good.
word. Thank you so much. No, seriously, that last part like really, really, really needed to be said. I'm so glad you said that. That was so powerful. Nicole, I want everyone to come follow you on Instagram. You are just Nicole Culver. It's Culver. Your podcast is the Shift Show Podcast, correct?
Mhm.
And then do you have anything else that they should check out, like free resources, anything like that they need to let go grab right this second?
I mean, the easiest way is to just go to my Instagram bio. It'll
Cool.
take you to my podcast and it'll take you to our freebie. And yeah, send me a DM. I love DMs. If you're listening to this, send me a DM and share with me like one of your favorite things that me or Josh said. I would love to hear it.
Yes. And make sure and tag us. Tag us in your stories. I will share to my stories, anyone that tags us, but also make sure you follow Nicole Culver, shoot her a DM, say hi, tell her thank you so much for hanging out with us, and then click on that link in the bio to check out all the other awesome stuff she has. Nicole, thank you so much. I appreciate you, friend.
Thank you, friend.
Have a great day, everyone. We will see you next time. Remember that everything you need, it's already living on the inside. All of the resources you will ever need are right under your nose. We will see you soon, friends. Bye.
This is something that if you are willing to fall on your face, you can do it. The question is, are you willing to get back up? My name is Josh, and I'm your push coach. I'm the #1 best-selling author of F Leadership, and for the last 6 years, I've helped over 40,000 entrepreneurs to take ownership of their businesses and create tangible results that have changed their businesses and lives forever. Let's dive in.